Good morning, it's Darren, and I'm a day late, but again, life happens. I'll be back on schedule after this video, but today's chapter is actually really short, not very long. It's called The School, and if you listen to my last episode, you'll definitely know how important this school thing was at the time. So definitely not here to, I'm gonna talk about school, the school, the way that I was then, not the way that it is now. So it's important to get that as you listen. So thanks for tuning in, guys. So the last time that I left you, in the last chapter, I was kind of laying in my bed in my dorm room, and it was my first night, and I was just like, where am I? This is heaven. And you know what? That feeling, it lasted for quite some time. So I'll never forget, we had our like the freshman orientation thing, and you go to there's like a fair here and this there, and it's all scheduled, right? We remember well, at least that's how mine was. So I remember in the first couple of days, I went to this seminar thing, and they were talking about international programs. And that was like, I was all over that. So I went and attended, and they handed out the little brochures or whatever, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this. So this magical feeling of school, it just kept getting better and better and better, and I hadn't even started school yet. Like, I wasn't going to any classes quite yet. Actual school hadn't started, but I just was on a high, you guys, like a high. So everyone I met was just so Christian. So Christian. We talked about Jesus in the first 30 seconds. Every time I'm meeting someone, it was just like, how is God helping your life? How has God delivered you from where you came from? Just every conversation was full and godly, and I was in love with it. Went down slightly a little bit when on my very first day of actual classes, I stepped into my 8 a.m. chemistry class. And I remember thinking, wow, I don't know if this was a great idea. So, but it was fine, right? Like, I made it through. I remember so many very vivid details about my first experiences at this school. I remember the first professor that prayed in class before before lecture, and I was just smitten. I was smitten with it. It was like, the whole problem that we had talked about, the solution, I was completely right. It really was the solution. So my first semester, I remember my classes like completely. I had chemistry at 8. We all had chapel at 9. I'm going to get to that in a sec. Then I had communication 101, Coma 101 at 10 with my, still to this day, favorite professor I've ever had in my life. 11 was a Bible class. Noon was chorus, which we rehearsed every day for that. 1 o'clock, I had World Lit. And 2 o'clock, I had Western Civ, history class. Like, I still remember it. Like, it was packed, and then I had an after-school job and whatnot. And, whenever you are meeting new people and whatnot on college campus, one of the first questions that comes out, so what are you studying? What are you majoring in? Whatever. Well, I was so proud to say I'm a nursing major because, and for all of my sweet nurses and just medical professionals out there in general, it's hard. Like, it's really hard. Like, super hard. So when you said I'm a nursing major, people were like, oh, good. And I was a guy saying that. That was kind of rare. So I really liked that. When I was attending this school, the president of the NLN, which is the National League of Nursing, was actually the dean of nursing at this school. So the program was just like kind of on a pedestal. And an 89 was a fail in the program. That's a hard bar, right, to set. So I had to get really good grades. But that was very easy, in fact, because everyone was there to get good grades, right? We're all good Christians. We're all using our talents and our skills, and this is good. So when you said I need to go study or whatever, your friends were like, oh, me too, let's go. So It was just, again, I'm overusing the word, but it was just like this magical experience to be with all these people that all felt the same way. So I want to go back to this chapel thing for a second. So this auditorium, actually, I'm not sure if this is still true, but it was then. It was the largest auditorium in the entire state of Arkansas. And that's because all of us were required to go to chapel every day, period. So attendance was actually taken by infrared camera. And so if you found someone to sit in your seat, like, you were safe, but that wasn't going to work out, because if you got someone to sit in your seat, like, what about their seat kind of thing? So everyone went to chapel. Chapel was about between 30 and 35 minutes every morning. And if my memory serves me, you got 10 skips. You can miss 10 times in a semester. If you missed more than that, legit, you had to go meet with the deans, and you had to have doctor's notes, health records, like reasons for why you were not in chapel, period. It was serious. Okay, so chapel, we had a whole host of characters. So there was always there was singing. So there was always 2, maybe 3 songs that we sang. And then there was a prayer. And then there was a speaker of some kind. And I've heard some really amazing speakers in chapel, really honestly, some very famous people, some presidents, some past secretaries of state, truly. So about mid-freshman year, it kind of got out that I was a good singer, and I led singing, whatnot. And I actually began leading chapel singing probably at least 2 or 3 times a month. And as I got, as I got up in age, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but as I got older, it happened more frequently. So everyone knew me. I mean, everyone knew me. That's the guy that leads chapel singing. So it's not like I intentionally, per se, became a big guy on campus. I don't mean that arrogantly, but just, it was a thing. Everyone knew me. I would be walking anywhere and people would just wave, and I'd wave back, because that's how it was. So chapel was very serious, taken very seriously. But again, everyone's there for the same reason that I was. So it was never, chapel. That wasn't a thing. We were like, let's go to chapel. Let's have our hearts filled with love, right? So you're kind of getting what this school is like. Okay, I want to talk about social clubs for a second. So we all know what fraternities and sororities are. This was not the place for that, y'all. That's not good, right? So we had the equivalent, and they were called social clubs. So here's how they worked. There were guys' social clubs and girls' social clubs, period. They all had some names that were kind of indicative of some of the Greek names that we know. And what was interesting, though, is that the guys' clubs, this was a big deal, would choose girls to represent their club. They were called queens. And the ladies' clubs, the girls' clubs, they chose boys to represent them, and they were called beaux. Well, there's this picture of me. If I can find it, I will put it up. I was beaued. So little Darren, there's this picture of me. They're slipping a jersey on me. It's probably 11:30 p.m. or so. It was late at night. And I'm so bright red. I had no idea what was happening. And if you know me at all, I like to be put together when I leave the house, just always have been. And the one and only time I ever wore sweatpants outside of my dorm room because I was going to get laundry, this happened. So now I'm a beau. So on top of everything else I'm doing in school, I go to these meetings with these girls, right? And I'm not gay. That's not a thing. And no one knows that. And I know in my heart, I'm here to fix this. So, oh my word. I end up dating a few girls. Oh my. And it was, y'all, to this day, I've never done anything with a girl. I've kissed a girl a few times, but this, so I'll just save you on that. There's nothing juicy coming up. But it was like, oh, is this the girl that God prepared for me? Is this the girl that God prepared for me? Because that's the lens I was looking at it through. But here's why that worked. Because they were too. Is this the guy that God has prepared for me? Just a very, and like, this is the school. This is the feeling. This is the atmosphere. And this is how it works. So became involved in the social clubs thing, and it was a lot. Like, there were events on the weekends, there were meetings at night, and one of the responsibilities of the beaus was to escort the ladies home after the meetings every once in a while, stuff like that. So I was so proud to be a beau. So things are going really good. People know me on campus. I've got a major that commands respect. I'm loving my classes. Things are magical, right? Until I got my first, we hit our first exam week. And I got 2 B's. And that was like, that's not good enough. So I had to be called into this nursing advisor meeting. And they're like, yeah, you're going to have to retake those classes. And I, bawled, rode this magical high for a little while, and now it's done. So I went to my favorite professor, and he was obsessed with the Myers-Briggs type indicator. To this day, I'm still super obsessed with the Myers-Briggs. And he's like, take this test. So I did. And he just like got the results, and he said, you're supposed to be a speech pathologist. And I said, what's that? So he like digs in his little file cabinet, and he pulls out, and I think he used to do career counseling or something. He wasn't technically the career counselor when this was happening, but he legit just turned around and dug through this file folder and pulled out these brochures. He's like, well, here it is. This is what it is. This is what you need to do. And I read it, and I was like, wow, this is what I need to do. And so I just marched right over to the admin building and changed my major. So and that was it. I finished out the rest of the year as a nursing major and did some of the prereqs, which transferred. And then I got involved in the world of speech language pathology, which, if any of you know at all, is like probably one of my biggest passions in life. I'm the weirdo linguistics nerd that loves phonetics so much. I'm just transcribing the way people talk to me all the time. What happened is this magical place that I was in love with, this school, y'all, it got better. It got even better because now I was in love with a study of something. And I'm serious. I consumed those textbooks. Just leave me alone. And I'm the world's biggest extrovert. And I'm like, no, I want to read my textbook. It was so weird. Another thing that was just amazing that happened is one of my very best friends in the world, and today I count her as my best friend in the world, she transferred to school from a different Christian college, so she was there with me. So things are literally perfect. They're amazing. And that's just this little high that I was writing. This school had so much money, and it came from a very large corporation that is in Northwest Arkansas. If you want to Google that, I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want to name drop at all. But you guys will figure it out quickly. It's the company that very much funded all this activity going on at my school in Arkansas, right? We had the best of everything. Our facilities were top notch. There was like one building when I arrived that was kind of little old. They redid it my second year. I mean, like, money just pours into this school. And the academic standards and integrity are high. The year that I attended as a freshman, we had more National Merit Scholars on campus than any other college in America. I mean, there was like over a dozen of them. Just like, it's all about academics. You went to class, and you had a few little, I don't know, social things here and there, coffee, whatnot, and then you went and studied. And not just me, not just my group of friends, all of us. This was the school. And so let's talk about some of the rules of the school, because as you can imagine, if they're making us go to chapel and stuff like that, like there were additional rules that we had to comply with. So here's some of my favorites. Have you ever worn shorts in class? because I haven't. That was a legit rule. No shorts to class, only long pants. In all of the dorm buildings, they were all boys' dorms, girls' dorms. And in each dorm, there was a lobby. And at the lobby, from the hours of 12 noon to 12 p.m., there was someone that sat at the desk because they're monitoring the actual lobby. Guys were only ever allowed in the lobbies. I'll reword that. The opposite gender was only allowed in the lobby of the dorm building. Ever. There were 2 times a semester where they would have, I don't remember what they called it, but you could go up to your rooms and the opposite gender could come in. And it was like a big deal. People would plan movie afternoons and, I don't know, tea, coffee. I don't know what the hell they're doing. I actually didn't go to many because, as you can guess, I wasn't super interested in the girls. But this was it was a big thing. So segregated dorms, that was a really, really big deal. Things like no shorts, and of course we had curfew. So curfew was at 12 on the weekdays and 1 o'clock on the weekends. And I, in my junior year, became an RA. And yes, we absolutely checked rooms every single night with our clipboard. I had to stay up, go take attendance, essentially. And there were some strict rules given to us by our dorm parents on how to do this. Like, you have to physically see their body. None of this like pillows in the bed thing. And they took it so seriously that if you were not accounted for, that this was grounds for expulsion. Like, you were going to be expelled from the school. That was an absolute no-no. So, and you'd be fined. Like, if you were late, you'd be fined. On top of that, as you might guess, no alcohol of any kind at this school. None. 0, period. In fact, it was in a dry county. And having lived in the South, when I meet people that are from the South, they know exactly what that is. But people in the Pacific Northwest, they're like, what's a dry county? A dry county is a county in which the sale of alcohol is prohibited. So that meant that even if you did try to drink at all, if you got to one of the liquor stores that surrounded this county, they knew exactly who you were. They would look for your parking sticker on your car. They wanted to see your student ID if you were, in addition to your ID. I didn't try this. Honest to goodness, I didn't. I drank one time in college at a different time. But I know I have peers that were kicked out. Like, they were legit kicked out of school, expelled, transcripts didn't go with them. As far as I know, you're done. No, 0 tolerance policy. There was another 0 tolerance policy, and that was for this little 3-letter word called sex. Sex was absolutely prohibited. And, even saying this out loud, it sounds like the craziest thing you've ever heard, but this is where I went to school, and they were completely serious about it. Like, you can't have sex. If they find out that you have engaged in sexual activity in any way with any gender, you're done. I had these 2 friends that, boyfriend, girlfriend, that, like, the sweetest people in the world. And she got pregnant and they were kicked out, like, gone. And like overnight, hatchet, gone, done. It was odd. And I remember thinking it was kind of odd when I was there, but it was like, I know, like, everyone has a different opinion of it, but it's just odd that even exists today. And besides liberalism, besides whatever, like, just, that's so interesting. But the more interesting thing, and I want to drive this home, the point, I signed up for this and I liked it and I wanted it. This was the solution, remember? I met some really incredible people at school. You can imagine that, because we grew up a cappella, we didn't use instruments, when thousands of students show up that can sing together, like, it's a magical thing. I missed singing all the time. If you've never sang a cappella with 9,000 other people, it's pretty damn special. Our chorus won multiple international competitions. We took it so seriously. We toured all the time. And I had dear, sweet friends. The majority were girls. Dated some, whatever, you know. The one time I almost had an encounter, a sexual encounter in the car with a girl. First of all, nothing was happening. I know I'm a truth teller. I'm being direct. This is a lot to share, but just go with me on this. If you have kids, send them in the other room. I was asked in the car, why aren't you hard? Why aren't you getting hard? Whoa. So I said, I just don't think that God wants us to do this. Oh, okay. And then it ended. So that was my out, right? Strange, just a strange place, but at the same time, so academic. And just these programs, every program had awards and recognition for something, research, the accomplishments they'd achieved. My department was really renowned. There was a physician assistant school. It was only pharmacy school. There was, you know, the nursing school had all these accolades. So there was that on top of it. But the people I met, they were all wonderful, lovely, amazing people. But we all operated in this blueprint. Like, this was the school. And before I end this chapter, I wasn't going to insert this, but I'm going to. Random, and I know this hasn't been chronological, but go with me for a sec. I'll never forget, I had 3 student jobs at one time, because I'm funding this whole college thing by myself. It's going on the Sallie Mae and the federal loan bill, you know, like whatever. Not even going to look at that till I graduate. I had several student jobs. I worked 2 shifts in the cafeteria, and I was like, F this. Are you kidding me? And by the way, when I had visited and the caf food was good, yeah, that only happens when people visit. They like pull out the good stuff. Otherwise, don't eat there. My friend Brittany and I, we still are joking about that. But one of the most influential people I ever met, and I'm gonna say his name because he's well, I'll get to that in a sec. His name was Dr. Alcott. And I answered this ad in the student jobs. And it said, this could be sketchy, right? Elderly gentleman needs student to type for him. Like, type like with clothes or without clothes? What are you talking about? And I mean, no disrespect to him. He would probably think that's funny. And I'm like, I'm a fast typer. Like, that's an easy job, right? So I answer this ad, and I get this call back, and this guy's like, yep, I want you to take the 167 up to this little town called Bald Knob, and you're gonna go to the old gas station where they used to sell chestnuts, and you're gonna go up the hill, and there's a big oak tree on the left, and I want you to just park your car there and then walk up the little path, and there's a house behind the other house, and that's where I live. I'm like, whoa. I did. He was exactly spot on, and y'all, like, I did this. I was a freshman. I was adventurous. And I got, his directions were exact. And I got to this little shack. And there is this 98-year-old man that legit just wanted to type a letter to the governor of Arkansas to talk about what he thought about his economic plan. So I did. I went in. This house was crazy, like this. It was huge, and it was a disaster. I think when he was finished with something, he just threw it on the floor or whatever. I typed for Dr. Alcott for 2 years, and he ended up, I went to his house one day, and it was completely burned down. It was gone. No one was there. I knocked on the neighbor's door, and I was like, what happened? And she said, well, I think that he passed away. I don't know. And I was heartbroken. I was absolutely heartbroken. And I kept searching, like I would type his name a lot to be like, is his obituary up? Is there a funeral I could go to? And I did that for probably 3 weeks, and I never found anything. About 6 months later, it's one of my last memories at the school, actually. I got this random email from this woman, and it said, "Hi, my name's so-and-so, and my dad passed away last week, and we would be so honored if you would come to his funeral. His name was Dr. Alcott. Maybe you remember him." This was like probably 9 months after his house had burned down. I didn't know this, but he had completely like escaped, and he went to go live with his daughter in Little Rock. And I guess that he talked about me so much. And I mean, I typed that letter to the governor for him, but it extended so far beyond that. I ended up typing emails for him. He loved the world of it. He couldn't get over it. And I circuitously got to know all of these kids, these grandkids. His kids were like in their 70s. His grandkids were in their like 40s, and his great-grandkids were having grandkids. Like, there was so many people. His aunt, this doctor's aunt, was the actual author, Louisa May Alcott. He was ancient, and he was a dentist. He had held all these positions in the world of dentistry, and had like kind of revolutionized it anyway. But here's Dr. Alcott. His daughter invited me to this funeral, and I went in Little Rock. And he said, she said at the end, I met his family and everything, and she said, my dad talked about you so much, and he just said, he's the only good thing that's ever come from that school. And I looked at her and I said, that really surprises me. I thought that you guys were big supporters of this school. And she said, oh no, the things that they do to people and the boxes they try to shove them in, it's not fair. And then she looked at me and she said, you should always be proud of exactly who you are, because my dad sure was. And I bawled, and I still have his obituary. I read it all the time. And that was one of the first hints, believe it or not, that maybe this school wasn't as magical as I thought. So that is my episode today, the school. The next one is called The South. I think you're gonna like that one too. I went a little over today. I didn't even intend to insert that whole story about Dr. Alcott, but he was a pretty amazing guy. I could do an entire book on that alone. Anyway, I hope you guys have the best day. Thank you so much for watching, bearing with me. I can't believe we're almost halfway through this thing. So anyway, thank you. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you on Thursday. Bye.